Hey guys, Michael here. Hope you're having a great day. So real quick, I want to talk to you guys about chronic low back pain, specifically pain that has developed or worsened as time has gone on. And this could be from a few months to several years. So whenever you approach somebody and we talk about low back pain, typically what you get is you have flexibility problem, you have mobility problem, you have strength imbalances or muscle imbalances, right? So although all those things may be correct and they may be giving you the right advice and stuff, we kind of need to look at and delve a little bit deeper into the details and what may be actually causing the problem and why the problem is happening in the first place, right? And why you're feeling that pain. So I have a drawing up here that I made not too long ago. I know it looks like it came straight out of a textbook, but that's besides the point. So a couple landmarks. So we have the lumbar spine. That's where you're feeling all your pain at. You have the pelvic crest. Right, so that's the hip bone that everyone kind of notices, right, above their waistline. Then you have the hip flexors. That's a group of muscles that flex the hips, right? And then we have hamstrings, which are on the posterior, right, so the back side, and they attach a little bit lower. And then here's a tailbone. That's just for a point of reference, right? So the hip is looking, the pelvis is looking this way. So, and then we have the femur. So why are you having that pain? Well, in this drawing up here, we have what we're assuming is a neutral pelvic tilt, right? Or pelvic position. So for those that think that they have a tight hamstring, we have to kind of be careful with that because it could be a trick. And what I mean by that is due to our sedentary lifestyles, our hip flexors tend to be a little bit shorter and tight. And because of that, the pelvis has to tilt forward, therefore lengthening the hamstring, and then the hamstring's already lengthened out to close to its max. So then when you go to stretch your toes and you think, or stretch your hamstrings and you think, oh, I got tight hamstrings, and you're going to touch your toes, you know, you think that the hamstrings is the problem, when really the hamstrings just feel super tight because they're extended to their limit due to the hip flexors being short and tight themselves, right? Now the opposite can happen too, where you have a posterior tilt, where if the hamstrings truly are tight and that is your problem, then the hip flexors will lengthen out and then everything will tilt in the reverse. So typically I call this butt or no butt. So if you have an anterior tilt, your butt is going to kind of stick out with the shoulders leaning forward. If you have a posterior tilt, the shoulders are going to be back with the hips kind of leading you while you walk, right? So you kind of have that slumped forward look. So most of us, for the most part, have tight hip flexors causing the hamstrings to feel tight, and then an anterior tilt. Now when the tilt's forward or backwards, you're changing the position not only of the hips or the pelvis, but you're changing the position of the spine. Now the spine has a natural curve. So when it tilts forward, you're adding more to that curve, and we call that hyperlordosis. And then if it takes away from the curve, so with the posterior tilt, it's hypolordosis, right? Now, there's a bunch of muscles that attach, and ligaments and tendons and all that stuff that attach into or onto that lumbar. And then they cross all over through the pelvis. Now when you change and you tilt it, now you're changing the degrees of pull of all those muscles, whether it's posterior or anterior. And that's adding even more stress, let alone your normal body weight stress or your compact stress with resistance training. So you're you're compromising that lumbar spine constantly. And we add that even more with our posture while we're sitting and stuff. Or slumping on the couch. So basically you're working really hard against that lumbar, and it's doing all that it can, and that's why that pain is coming and going, or it gets worse and then it lessens and stuff like that. So you are truly compromising it if you have those problems, right? Now, how do we combat that? There's a couple different things that you can do, and I'll make a separate video of specific exercises and techniques and stuff that you can do to combat it. But essentially, we got to look at, if you have a muscle imbalance, we got to look at the strength of the glutes and the strength of the abs or the core, right? And so when I say abs, I'm not just talking about the six pack, I'm talking about the 360 core, basically. All the muscles that surround you from your spine all the way to the front. And then we have glutes, and the glutes are the main stabilizers. They're the strongest muscles there in the pelvis, or pretty much in the whole body, pound for pound, right? So those, we need to focus on exercises that will strengthen those things up, and then work on your flexibility, whether it's your hamstrings with posterior or if it's your hip flexors with anterior. But like I said, I'll come up with more videos. I hope this helps you guys. I hope it was enlightening as far as why you may be having low back pain. If you have any questions, feel free to message me, give me a comment, and I'll talk to you guys later.